Alright guys, welcome to another tutorial, and actually in today's video I'm going to be teaching you about GUIs. Alright, so we're starting a new series. It's kind of exciting, alright, because recently, or not recently, but all we've done on this channel so far is just script, but now we're going to actually make GUIs and script. Okay, so it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be cool. You're going to be excited, I know. Okay, so yeah, alright, in today's video I'm going to go over just the basics of GUIs, sort of just like how they work, a few of the basic, or like sort of like an introduction, right? So like just a few of the basic properties, what they mean, and how to change them, right? So first things first, just so you know, all GUIs are made on the client, or they're only for the client. Okay, so that might not make sense right now, but just keep that in mind. So yeah, okay. So how to actually see your own GUIs? You don't insert them into workspace. Okay, you don't insert a GUI into workspace. Is that even gonna work? Yeah, no, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't. So it's in workspace. Don't do that. You have to insert it into your screen or start a GUI. All right, so go ahead and go right here to start a GUI, and then insert a screen GUI. Now, screen GUIs are GUIs that are on your screen. Okay, I know that sounds self-explanatory, but there's also other GUIs like billboard GUIs, and there's also other GUIs called like surface GUIs. Now, I'll explain these all in the future tutorial. Don't worry. But for now, I'm just gonna explain screen GUI, which is sort of just the one that's on your screen. Okay, so the one that's like 2D. Okay, surface GUIs on parts, and so is billboard GUIs. All right. Anyways. Let's start off with service GUI. Alright, so first things first, you need to have a service GUI to have any UI at all. If you were to insert like a text button, for example, just in a started GUI, you wouldn't see it. But if you put it into your screen GUI, then now you can actually see stuff. Okay, so let's go ahead and mess with our settings first. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and click on our screen GUI right here. And as you can see, we have a few settings, okay? Probably the most important one, properties. So the most important one is probably just enabled. That's the one you're going to use, right? Just enabled and disabled for screen GUI. And then reset on spawn, that's a useful one too. And then Z index behavior, I'll explain that in a bit, so don't worry. And that should be about all you need to know for now. Okay, yeah, so enabled and disabled is really all you need to know. Alright, so we'll go ahead and keep it enabled for now, obviously. And now if we go to our text button, here's where we get all the properties, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and move it to our center of our screen right here. And I'm going to scale it up a little bit. I want it to be a little bit bigger, alright? And if you guys don't know, right now, like in Studio, you can actually move your stuff. Well, obviously you're seeing me do it, but you can move your GUIs with literally just your mouse. Be thankful, okay? This is a privilege. Before, you had to literally type in numbers to move it. You had to do like that. You couldn't to move it and scale it. There was nothing like this. You had to type in numbers manually. I think there's like a plugin back in the day, but I never used it because I was too much of a noob, I guess. But you had to do that, right? So, but thankfully today you can just scale it, or you can do it right here, all with your mouse, which is awesome. And makes it pretty simple and easy, very easy to use. Alright, anyways, so yeah, I'll put it right here. Doesn't matter how big you make it, just put it somewhere. And we're going to go through a few of the basic properties, okay? So this is a text button. Actually, you know what? First we'll do a text label, actually. That'll make more sense. So actually delete that and insert a screen GUI, insert as text label, okay? Now this is the same, okay, a text label, I'll explain right now, okay? So what is a text label? Okay, a text label, as you can probably guess, it's just a label with text on it. And Roblox lets you type text on it. So you can, for example, you could type hi, you could type how are you doing? But you get the point. You can type text on this text label. Okay, and there's a property called text scaled, which will scale it for you, so it's a lot easier to read. And you can make it whatever you want. You also have things like here, like font, right? You have, Arial, you can do Antique, you can do Code, you can do Source Sans Bold, you can do Gotham Bold, a lot of fonts, right? Very cool fonts, okay? These are just the text properties. There's a bunch of data properties up here. I'll explain these in a second too, but these are text properties, okay? Then you have text size, but if text size is already, or text size doesn't matter if it's scaled. If it's scaled, the scale is going to overwrite the text size, so yeah. But I like to keep it scaled because it'll just scale to your GUI size, so it just looks nice. And then you have other things like text transparency. So I can set that to 0.5, and now the 0.5, and now the text is halfway transparent, so it looks a little bit faded, right? That's kind of cool. And then you have things like text Y alignment, so you can put it at the top of the Y-axis, right? So out of here, or actually out of here, sorry, up here, up and down, you can put it at the top, or you can put it at the bottom, or center, or the bottom. And as you can see, obviously by default it's in the center. And then same thing with the left, or with the X alignment, you can put that in the center, left, or right. So yeah, it's pretty cool. So yeah, anyways, let's go ahead and go into the data properties up here. Now text, let's go ahead and leave that how it is for now. Actually, I'll make that back to 0. I want it to be fully opaque. And then also you can change the stroke of the text. You can actually put like outlines. That's what a stroke is. It's an outline. So I'll put a green outline sort of. And then right now the text stroke transparency is 1, so that means it's invisible. But if I turn that to 0, now you can kind of see the green. And then if I increase the size of the stroke, which I don't know where that is right now, but if you did, that would make it obviously, bigger, and you can see it better. But yeah, anyways, don't worry about that for now. We're gonna I'm gonna undo that, keep that at 1, the text stroke transparency. I just Control Z to undo it. So yeah. Okay, next you have your data properties. Now this is the same for pretty much every single GUI element. Okay, this is how this is all gonna work. Okay, so basically what you have in your data properties, I'll explain top to bottom. You have your background color, which is pretty obvious. It's the color like this right here. So I can make it any color I want. I can make it, that color, that color, that color, and I can also make it have a seizure. I don't want to do that, so I'm gonna stop doing that, and and yeah, I'll keep it like that. All right, looks nice. And then you have background transparency, which you can obviously guess. There's this little slider. You can just slide it to be transparent or to be less transparent. So you can make that like, kind of cool. So, it's a little bit transparent. That's kind of cool, right? And then you have things like border color. So as you can see, there's actually a black border around our text. So what you can do is you can change the color of it. So I can make it, I'll make it red, right? And as you can see, the border is now red, but it's a little bit small. So there's a property below that, which is a border size pixel. So I'll set that to 10, and now you can see the border size is pretty big, a little bit too big maybe. And but as you can see, it's very visible, and I can change the color of that if I wanted to. So yeah. Now that looks disgusting, so I'm going to put that back to how it was, as black and as as one size, or 1 pixel size. Okay. Also, I forgot to skip border mode. Border mode, basically, when you have a border, I'll make it big again. When you have a border, by default, it's an outline, so it's along the edges, and it goes up or goes out, right? But if you put it in middle, it's gonna put the border in the middle of the edges. Okay, so it's gonna stick the 5 pixels, like 2.5 the pixels on one side and 2.5 pixels on the other side. So it's going to stick it in the middle. Like you can sort of see it. And then if I put an inset, the border's in the inside of the property. See, like you can see like the little outlines right here when I've selected it. That's outlines on the outside. That's inset, and that's middle. So that makes sense, I hope. If you ever use Photoshop, you've probably seen that before. Okay, we'll keep that right now for outline. All right, next you have layout order, and we'll actually skip that one for now if we don't have anything else to display with. And then you have name, so obviously you can name your own text label, so we'll call it cache display. Like, we could do like cache or something. Like if I change the text, I could do cache 50, whatever I want. And then we can do the parent. Obviously, what the parent is. That's the parent is the screen GUI. We need that because if we have the screen GUI, you actually can't see any GUIs. So yeah. And then here's where it gets a little bit tricky. People don't understand this. Okay, don't worry, because I'm going to teach you right now. All right, so if you've ever used GUIs before, you've probably seen these numbers. Okay, so for position, you actually have a table of numbers. Okay, you have the x-axis, and then you have the y-axis. Now I'm going to explain just the x-axis first, and then I'll go into the y-axis. Okay, I mean it's the same thing, but I'll explain that just to make it simple. Okay, so as you can see, if you open up your position right here, it says you have actually, let me set my y-axis to 0 for now. I'm gonna set that to 0. Okay, so then move it to the top, right? All right, but if you open up your x-axis right here, as you can see, you have your scale value and your offset value. Now here's what these two things are. Okay, scale Okay, first of all, what's the x-axis? The x-axis is anything like across like this. Okay, so it's left and right. So if I move this to the left, you can see my scale value actually is going down because it's going to the left, right? And if I move to the right, as you can see, my scale value is going up because I'm moving to the right. Right? That makes sense. Okay, so as you can see, that's what the x-axis is. X-axis is left and right. Y-axis is up and down. Okay, that number is changing. Okay, now, but what does scale mean? Okay, so scale basically means, okay, so the position x scale. Okay, what does scale mean? Scale means the proportionate position, okay, of the GUI. Okay, so basically what that means, if I go ahead and set my scale to 0.5, it's going to move the left corner, or the left side, or the origin actually, which is going to be right here. It's going to move the origin, right, of the GUI, which is right here. That's the origin, so where it all starts, and then it expands out from, right? It's going to move the origin to halfway of my screen. So if I were to move my screen, my GUI also moves. So watch this. See my GUI moving? It's moving it to the halfway part of my screen because I set it to 0.5. It's out of 1. So 0.5 is obviously 50%, so it moves it to 50% of the way in my screen. Now if I were to set that to 0, now it's at the origin. Now the origin starts at the top left, right? But now it's not moved at all. There's no position, right? And now if I were to use offset and change that to 500, that sets it, I'm not sure if that's the middle, you can't really tell, but offset, what offset is offset is actually pixels, okay? So this is 200 pixels away from the border now. This is 200 pixels away from the 200 pixels away from the left side of my screen, right? As you can see, it says it right there. So if I were to move it up, you know, it's moving, blah, blah, blah. But as you can see, that's what offset is. Offset is pixels. So if I were to move my GUI like this, or move my if I were to move my look at this, right, this little properties panel, right, I move it, it stays 345 pixels away because it's offset by that much. It stays that much because it's in pixels, right? So that's what it is. It's a pixel count. All right, now the reason why people use there's two different values is because if you want to have a game for mobile, right, if I go ahead and hit test and go to my device right here and emulate, as you can see, it looks awful on the iPhone 7 Plus right now. It looks like trash. The GUI is sticking halfway off the screen. You can't even see it, right? So that's not good. We obviously don't want that. So what you do is you use scale, and that way you can set it in the right spot. So I'll set it to 0.5, and now, as you can see here, device. It's set 0.5 out of the way. Also still off the screen, but that's because the size is messed up, so don't worry, I'll explain that in a second too. Or I'll change that in a second. But yeah, it basically, scale is how far across. So if I want to move it to 1, as you can see, it's off the screen slightly because the origin right here is at 1. So all the way across at 1, and it's right there in the top right. And now at 0, it's in the top left, right? And then 0.5 is in the middle. 0.25 in quarter of the way. You get what I'm saying, right? That's how that works. So if that makes sense. Okay, and now for the y-axis, it's the same way. Right, for position, it's the same exact way, but it's just down, right? So it's right now it's at 0 because it's at the top, right? But if I were to move it to 0.5, now that's halfway down the screen, or halfway down this window, right? Halfway down this window from the top. Makes sense, right? And it might not look like halfway if you eyeball it, but that is halfway. That's how it works, right? So yeah. All right. Now the same thing for size. Offset or scale is the size, right? So 0.5, I make it half the screen. Now this is literally half the screen. Okay, that's the size of the scale. It's 0.5, so it's going to be half the screen on the x-axis. On the y-axis, I'll make it 0.2, and now it's 2% or 20% of the screen. So it's 0.2 of the screen. So I would need 5 of these, right? If I duplicated each one, or let me get rid of the border first. All right, I get rid of the border, and I duplicate it 5 times. All right, don't worry. As you can see, because it's 0.2, it fits so perfectly because it's, that's the math. It fits perfectly, so it takes 5 of them. I hope that makes sense. I'm using a lot of math to make it confuse you, but anyways, you get the point, right? That's how that works. So scale is like proportionate out the screen, and then position, offset is pixels. Okay, that's what that means, and that's for both position and size. All right. So yeah. All right. So also now, if you do scale them with your cursor or your like your little like resize tool right here on the screen, it'll actually by default use only scale, because if it's already set in scale, then it'll use scale. But if you set it in offset, right, it's gonna scale in offset. Actually no. Let me set that to 0 and then set that to 50 as well. But you can see the offset's changing now, like right there, right? Before, if you set it to scale, it's gonna change it to scale when it resizes. So yeah, that's pretty useful too. Anyways, but now if I were to go ahead and use the emulator, it's gonna fit perfectly, right? Obviously, I put it's in a pretty bad spot, but if I put it at the top right there, it's gonna be the top for any device because it's using scale and it works nice. It resizes it for any device. So yeah, if you want to make your game compatible, that's a way to do it. But sometimes when using scale, beware because it may look a little bit weird. Sometimes people don't like it. You know what I'm saying? Sometimes people think it'll scale it too much to make it look weird. So yeah, sometimes you might make it custom for every device. Who knows? I don't know. If you wanted to, you could do that. But for most purposes, we're going to use scale because it's very simple to use, and you don't have to actually put too much effort into actually making GUI and stuff like that. But yeah, that's pretty much that. So now if I were to go ahead and get rid of scale and just do offset, right? Or yeah, just do offset. As you can see now, let me make it bigger with offset. Right now it's on the screen, right? But if I go ahead and make it on the iPhone 7, it's off the screen. That's on accident, don't know that. But it's off the screen, right? And that's because I'm using offset. So that makes sense. So yeah, that's what that means, and that's what that is. Anyways, that's pretty much text labels and how they work, so I guess I won't have to do a tutorial on that. But next, I'm going to explain frames, and that's pretty much the same thing. Like I said, guys, like everything in the data, right, in the data section is going to be the same for pretty much all the GUI elements. It has a border, it has a size, it has the outline, whatever, it changes colors, but it doesn't have text, right? It's a frame. So basically, what frames are useful for too? Let me explain that. So the text, that's the text label. You explain that. I explained that. But yeah, the frames. You want to use frames whenever you're making stuff like an inventory, for example. Like if you were making an inventory, you put a text button inside your inventory, right? And then put it. Okay, so for example, we're gonna name this one the screen GUI main GUI. Okay, and then I'll name the frame inventory. Okay, and then I'll name this item, and then I'll duplicate the items. All right, now we have a bunch of items in our inventory. And now this is good because when I change the scale of this position, right, like I changed this to 1 now, it's at the edge of the frame because now it's not taking up the screen off the main GUI, now it's taking up the frame, right? So that's what that does. So I set it to 0. It's at the x0 of the scale is at the 0, right, of the frame. So that makes sense, I hope, because I'm setting it to 0 on the scale, and since it's in the frame, it's taking the scale of the frame, not the screen. But if I were to move this into the main GUI now, it moves it to the side because it's taking the scale of the screen instead of the frame. So yeah. Hope that makes sense. So yeah, it's basically frames are like an organizer tool. They're very good to use, and it makes stuff simpler when you're making certain stuff. So you wouldn't want to make an inventory and then have it like that, not inside the frame, because then you're gonna have it like it'll be weird and hard to manage, right? So it makes sense to use frames. Now we're gonna be using frames a lot because we want to make sure our GUIs are clean, organized, easy to use. So we will be using frames a lot. So yeah. Anyways, I know we didn't script it all in this video, but sometimes I guess we don't. And yeah, I'm trying to think if there's any more thing I need to cover. Oh yeah, there's rotation too. You can also rotate GUIs. So for example, this thing right here, I can rotate it. So I can set that to 50. As you can see, it's rotated 50 degrees. I can set it to 90. Rotated 90 degrees, right? Makes sense. And then size is size. I explained that. And then size constraint. Don't worry about that for now. Style. There's styles you can use from Roblox. Like there's Roblox styles you can use. but we're not going to use any of those because they don't look the best. But yeah. Anyways, that's pretty much that. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial. That is the introduction to GUIs. Yeah, we're going to be learning a lot more about them in the future, so get ready for that. And I'm going to explain how to script them as well, so yeah, don't worry, but I wanted to explain how they work and how Roblox GUIs just kind of work, so yeah. Alright, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.